Go. We're about to start our story. We're getting in place. Greetings, I'm Laura Puccia Valtorta. Today we're broadcasting from Cavi di Lavagna in Italy. And we're trying also with a video recording. And we're in the beautiful Italian Riviera. We are the Valtorta family. I'm Laura, a content creator, filmmaker, and attorney. My son Dante.
I'm Dante.
Is always helping us. And we are all here in Italy because my husband Marco,
Buongiorno dall'Italia.
now 69 years old, used to spend his summers here as a boy. My films include the comedies Bermuda and You Feel Me, and the Disease Detective series, all available on Amazon, Tubi, and other streaming channels. We just finished filming AI in the Family, a documentary about artificial intelligence, what the public needs to know about it. Today's story is Season 3, Episode 4 of our series, B is for Bisexual, where, as usual, we're dealing with magical realism, a world in which women are treated as equal human beings, and the fact that 1 in 5 people lives in a queer lifestyle is considered normal, because it is normal. I hope you enjoy our story, Invisible Woman. After we finish reading, I will tell you something interesting about filmmaking. And now, Invisible Woman. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Sabrina Strega waited outside the Films, Books, Coffee Shop in downtown Albany for the owner to lock up and head upstairs. The electrocloth, invisibility cloak she had draped over her like a tent, made her arms itch, and her ankles were on fire from the stiff, electrically wired socks. She had one more evening heist to go before retiring for the night. The 3 other shops in nearby Clifton Park she had hit were low on cash due to Dump's tariffs, and so she had to visit a 4th shop. $200 per night was her required take in order to spend her days in her quiet, colorful bungalow writing fiction podcasts that hardly paid the bills. The owner of Films, Books, Coffee, Jennifer Outlaw, a wide woman with an eggplant-shaped head, was counting her cash. They had hosted a screening of Can You Ever Forgive Me that day, part of the Melissa McCarthy Festival, when she pulled out a pack of Virginia Slims and searched for matches in her wide pants pockets. She had a big, expansive ass and pockets to match. Jennifer laid the cash on the counter and ambled out to the front porch, leaving the door ajar. Sabrina froze as Jennifer stood next to her and lit a cigarette. Sabrina wore a hat, cap, cape, gloves, socks, and booties made of the electric cloth, which worked very well at concealing things, as long as it remained still. When the wearer moved, the illusion of invisibility grew fuzzy around the edges. Jennifer pulled on the cigarette. Sabrina, who was allergic to cigarette smoke, felt her nose twitch. The door was still open. She just had to sneak inside and grab the cash. Jennifer's eyes squeezed shut as she sucked in the smoke. At that moment, Sabrina darted inside the door. She could hear the stiff cloth brushing against the door frame. It was invisible, not inaudible, and Jennifer stared directly at her. Stop for a minute. I'm going to check this. Okay.
Who's there?
Jennifer boomed. She walked back inside toward the cash register, just as Sabrina skimmed off the top half of the bills off the pile of cash and shoved them inside her cloak. Jennifer stared at the remaining bills. Sabrina's electrocloth gloves hid her hands, but Jennifer must have seen the pile of cash moving through the air and then disappearing.
What the fuck?
said Jennifer. She looked hard at the cigarette she was smoking and stubbed it out in an ashtray shaped like a flamingo.
I saw that money move. Aunt Mary, are you here? Are you visiting me from lesbian heaven?
Sabrina headed toward the door, but Jennifer was blocking the exit, and she was a large woman.
You know, if you're a ghost, you can just walk through me.
Sabrina stopped and stood very still. She'd have to wait for Jennifer to get fired, and from what she had observed at Films, Books, Coffee, the woman lived alone above the shop and had a lot of time on her hands. Jesus. Sabrina wished that the library still collected fines for overdue books and that the corner second shop had done better business that day. It was because of their lack of cash that she had to visit a fourth shop, and 4 was an unlucky number.
I'm not moving, Aunt Mary,
said Jennifer, her arms akimbo.
I can wait here all night until you return that money.
Jennifer lit another cigarette and blew the smoke toward Sabrina.
Achoo!
Sabrina sneezed, and Jennifer, jolted by the sound, fell backwards onto the floor. Jennifer stood up, and instead of running away like a meeker person would have done, she lunged at Sabrina like a panther and ripped off her invisibility cloak. Sabrina stood there sheepishly, feeling naked, with the top of her head still invisible from the invisibility camp, and her feet looking absent because of the invisibility booties.
Hi,
said Sabrina.
I'm Sabrina Strega, your neighbor from down the street.
Cripes, I know who you are,
said Jennifer.
What is this fabulous witchcraft?
She looked at the cloak she held that made her hands look invisible so that she could see through her arms to the floor.
I invented it,
said Sabrina.
And I use it for petty thievery every night so I can spend my days writing. I couldn't stand any more waitressing jobs. I thought I would go mad.
That's pretty dramatic,
said Jennifer, staring at the cloak.
The important thing is, how did you invent this cloth?
Pretty easy,
said Sabrina.
It's got wires woven into it that interact with your phone and your brain. Creates the illusion of continuity.
Why not sell it to the government as spyware?
said Jennifer.
Then you can make a lot of money all at once.
I don't want a lot of money all at once,
said Sabrina.
I just want $200 a day. And besides, why should the shitty government have my invention?
Oh, yes, don't know.
said Jennifer.
Don't know.
The government sucks,
said Sabrina. Jennifer fingered the cloth for a long time.
Take off that cap,
she commanded.
The top of your head missing gives me the willies.
Sabrina whisked off her cap and followed Jennifer to the back of the store. There was a small refrigerator there and a coffee maker.
Come on, sit down. Want some coffee?
Sabrina nodded. She really wanted to grab the cloak for Jennifer's hands and run, but Jennifer was hugging it to herself and then trying it on in front of a mirror, whipping it off and then trying it on. The cloak was not big enough to hide Jennifer's ass, so she looked partly invisible, like two large loaves of bread floating and rocking in front of the mirror. The coffee tasted like mud, bitter mud. Half a cup of milk made it taste a little better.
That cloak took me months and months to make,
Sabrina said.
Please give it back to me.
Shut up,
said Jennifer.
I'm thinking.
Jennifer paced around, Films, Books, Coffee, and Sabrina followed her, worried. Grabbing the cloak and running home would not do any good because Jennifer knew where she lived. Jennifer hoisted herself up onto the counter next to the cash register.
I need some help around this shop, but I don't have money to pay anybody. You could work here.
Sabrina reached for the cloak, but Jennifer pulled it away.
I don't want to work in your shop. I want to write stories during the day and steal money at night.
Too late for that,
said Jennifer.
Because now I know your secret. I could tell somebody at the university. Do you know how much grant money they could get for an invisibility cloak?
Sabrina nodded. That was why she had kept her electro cloth a secret. Nobody was allowed to fund female scientists anymore. Some skinny buck-toothed man would steal it away and make millions.
I say we take turns running my shop and take turns stealing. We can do other things too, like attracting a larger crowd to my Sandra Bullock nights and adding Bitcoin to our portfolios.
You can't get greedy.
said Sabrina.
Stealing a huge pile of cash would blow our cover.
I know,
said Jennifer, as though she were reining herself in.
I really want one of those cool Tesla trucks, but I'm going to put that on hold while we figure this thing out.
Sabrina fumed.
I already have figured it out. Steal small amounts of money that nobody will notice.
Don't you want your stories to get published?
said Jennifer.
Well, I want Amazon to distribute my inventions. We can do big things with an invisibility cloak.
Sabrina had no choice but to give in. Jennifer handed back the electrocloth, and they planned to meet the next morning. Sabrina went home and slept fitfully in her yellow and purple bedroom. Back at Films, Books, Coffee at 9 a.m., Jennifer looked as though she had never left the cash register. Her stretchy white t-shirt, black sweatpants outfit, or a pack of Virginia Slims. 3 people were drinking coffee and perusing the books, but otherwise everything in the shop looked the same.
Hey, skinny woman, I've got a plan.
She told Sabrina.
Go back to your house and put together a manuscript. I don't care how bad it is. After lunch, we're taking the train to Penn Station and finding you a publisher.
You mean New York City?
Said Sabrina.
That's right. We're taking the 11 a.m. train. Meet me at the station.
Sabrina shrugged and trudged back to her house. She did have a manuscript, all right. 500 pages of short stories. All of them were excellent, of course, but she could never get a publisher to look at them. Not with a name like Sabrina Strega, so obviously Italian-American. None of her stories were about criminals. The only crime she herself had ever committed was stealing petty cash, and nobody wanted to read about that.
You're too negative.
Jennifer told her as they were seated on the afternoon train to New York.
Start looking on the bright side. You have an invention that's genius.
I want to be a published writer,
said Sabrina.
Then do it. And after that, you can help me be an inventor and a film director.
Oh gosh, my books may not sell. They're about witches and wild boars.
Sounds good to me.
The public only wants to read about crime, kinky crime.
What do you think we're about to do?
Said Jennifer.
See a Broadway show?
Jennifer had brought along fruit and cheese sandwiches that they ate along the way.
What about your shop?
Asked Sabrina.
We're closed for the day. You should be taking notes on all this strategy. Turn the cloak into a magic hat or a powerful stun phone that puts people in a trance. Then just write about what we're actually doing. The public will love me as the main character, large and in charge. You can call me Carmen. I've always wanted the name Carmen.
Sabrina rolled her eyes. She took out her fat notebook and outlined a story. The offices of Whitaker, Smith, and Outlaw were open until 5 p.m. only. So Jennifer had a hard time getting in at 4:30 in the afternoon. Sabrina, keeping herself taciturn under the invisibility cloak, figured most of the publishing staff were already at home, just pretending to work.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Outlaw.
Said Jennifer. She pointed to her black briefcase.
My cousin is Whitaker Outlaw, and I want to give him this novel to consider.
The skinny secretary named Muffy, according to the sign on her desk, she was sitting straight up in a black suit with kinky frizzy hair, narrowed her eyes. I've never seen you before,
That's because I've never been here before.
said Jennifer.
Is my cousin in his office?
Let me ask, said the secretary.
Oh, he will see me,
said Jennifer in a loud voice.
because I have stuff on him.
After Whitaker barked, "Send her up," into the phone, the secretary directed Jennifer to the elevator. As the secretary stared after them and rubbed her eyes, Sabrina, concealed under the electro cape, also slipped inside the elevator.
When we get to the 5th floor,
Said Jennifer.
watch where I point. Put your manuscript there. Whitaker is organized.
She explained.
You should see his apartment.
Whitaker, wide-bodied like Jennifer, and wearing a pinstripe suit and red sneakers, was waiting for Jennifer when the elevator doors opened. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "Mom and Dad already know I burned down the chicken coop, and I don't have any more money,"
You do have money,
said Jennifer.
but that's obviously not why I'm here. I want you to consider the manuscript I've written.
She pointed to her briefcase. "Hey," said Whitaker, "I'm sure you've written something wonderful,"
I have.
said Jennifer.
It's about my pissant cousin who never told his wife, the owner of a big publishing company, that he was gay.
"Keep your voice down," said Whitaker, "and come into my office." Sabrina followed Jennifer and Whitaker into a large wood-trimmed office with windows looking onto Central Park. Aside from books on shelves, there was nothing on Whitaker's desk except piles of manuscripts in boxes marked read, reject, and recommended. "Put your manuscript here," said Whitaker, indicating the reject pile.
Ha, ha.
Said Jennifer, slapping her pages onto the read pile.
I want some water. Sparkling water.
Baring his teeth, Whitaker walked out of the office. Jennifer turned in the direction of Sabrina and lifted the top half of the recommended pile. She gestured to Sabrina, who quickly laid her manuscript of intriguing short stories in the middle of the pile. After adjusting the pile, Jennifer went over to examine the books on Whitaker's shelves.
What a pile of shit.
She told Whitaker as he re-entered the office.
All you ever read is Hemingway and Tom Clancy. At least get you some Somerset Maugham.
"Out of here," said Whitaker. "Unless you have another favor to ask, get out of here,"
Yes, boss.
said Jennifer. She clicked her heels and saluted her cousin in the Nazi style. "Do-do-do-do." Later, at a Polish eatery, where the owner answered the phone, cooked the eggs, and took orders from incoming customers, Jennifer and Sabrina were sipping an espresso milkshake after a meal of breakfast for dinner.
That was awesome.
Said Sabrina.
But there's no guarantee he'll like my short stories.
Nope,
Said Jennifer.
but at least he'll read them. My story about the duplicitous publisher/cousin will distract him. He still thinks that all the stuff in the recommended pile was recommended by his wife or other stupids like her.
Do I still have to work in your films, books, coffee shop?
No.
Said Jennifer.
On Monday, we'll be visiting the State Arts Commission.
During the ride home in the train, Jennifer chose seats away from other passengers and outlined her plan to obtain a grant from the local arts commission. She had an idea that should revolutionize pop-up independent film theaters, a portable smart screen the size and weight of an umbrella. All it needed was a tripod and a phone to expand to a full-size screen and show films from the filmmaker's own Vimeo account.
You could just plug it in, you know.
Exclaimed Jennifer.
And voila, instant cinema.
What do you call it?
Asked Sabrina.
Instant cinema.
I guess the screen is made out of silk.
Said Sabrina.
Or nylon.
Sure.
Said Jennifer cautiously. She hadn't really thought about materials.
I'm an expert on fabric.
Said Sabrina.
We could work together, bundling the prototype and share the profits.
Said Jennifer.
Mostly, I just want to make this lightweight screen for my shop so I can set up films more easily, instead of having to project on the walls, you know.
I think it's worth selling on Etsy.
Said Sabrina. Working together was the important thing, they decided, as long as they had a fair chance at success. And success meant contacts. Then they could be creative without having to answer to the man. They imagined a bright future together as they retired together to Sabrina's house to room together and explored each other's bodies. An apartment above a shop like Jennifer's was no place to live, especially not alone. That's the end for now. I want to express my feelings about making a documentary. Writing a narrative script, and directing actors can be stressful. That is because everybody is not the same, nor do we all think the same. A quick tip for filmmakers to stay sane is to make both narrative and fictional films to express your feelings, and then documentaries. The documentaries are in which the director relies on others, hopefully experts, to tell the story. Can be a huge relief after dealing with scene changes in actors. As in, phew, now I can spend time learning from others. Until next time, I give you Dante,
Arrivederci.
Marco,
A presto, arrivederci.
ciao from Italy. Do.